1 in every 23 Americans was a victim of property crime last year. 1 in 73, victim of violent crime. That's not a warning, that's a reality check. And while everyone's scared of New York, LA, or Chicago, they're not even in the top 5 anymore. The real danger? It's hiding in plain sight, in cities you've never heard of, states you thought were safe, places you might live in right now. Cities with murder rates higher than El Salvador, burglary rates that beat South Africa, and homicide clearance rates so low it's basically legal if you don't get caught. You think America's dangerous? You're right. But not for the reasons you think. We're going state by state, one city per state. The worst of the worst, and by the time we hit number 1, you'll start double locking your doors, even if you live in a good neighborhood. Let's go. Number 15. Wilmington, Delaware. You'd think the tiny state of Delaware would be safe by default. It's got the tax haven reputation, a bunch of corporate HQs, and a population smaller than some cities. But Wilmington is delusionally dangerous. We're talking about a city where the violent crime rate sits at 1,498 per 100,000 people. That's nearly quadruple the national average. And that's not even counting property crime, which is pushing 5,000 per 100K. Think about that. You've got a better chance of getting your stuff stolen in Wilmington than of finding an open Trader Joe's after 8 p.m. What makes it worse? The city is just under 71,000 people. That's not huge. That's small enough that everyone knows the police scanner's frequencies by heart. Median income sits around $47,000, which sounds doable until you factor in the median rent being over $400. Wilmington is the type of place where half your paycheck goes to rent, the other half to replacing the stuff you just had stolen. It gets weirder. This city had one of the highest youth homicide rates in the country for years. The mayor once called it Murder Town, USA, in a press release. And nobody argued. You don't get that nickname because of bad Yelp reviews. Wilmington's proximity to Philly doesn't help either. It's a funnel for gang activity, drug trafficking, and car theft. Imagine waking up to your sedan on cinder blocks and someone shouting in the distance about a parole violation. That's Wilmington. And if you're thinking, well, I'll just stay downtown? Wrong. Downtown is where it happens. Shootouts in parking lots, muggings near coffee shops, stabbings outside of law offices. It's like GTA, East Coast expansion pack. Want a home security system? Cool. Just know they have package thieves smart enough to disable ring cams. It's that level of organized. Delaware might be small, but Wilmington is proof that chaos doesn't need a big stage. This isn't just a dangerous city. It's a cautionary tale wrapped in bricks and boarded windows. And if you think Delaware is boring, spend a weekend in Wilmington. And hope you get to leave on Monday. Number 14. Little Rock, Arkansas. The capital of Arkansas sounds innocent enough, right? A river, a few museums, the Clinton Presidential Library, maybe a spot for some southern comfort. But here's the twist. Little Rock is statistically one of the most dangerous cities in America, and has been for years. Violent crime rate, 1,946 per 100,000. That's not a typo. That's more than 6 times the national average. Assaults are the main offender. Aggravated assault specifically, meaning this isn't bar fight territory. This is hospital trip territory. Add in robbery, rape, and murder, and suddenly those charming Riverwalk views start looking more like tactical escape routes. Property crimes even worse, $6,164 per $100,000, so good luck keeping your car stereo, your bike, or even your porch furniture. Little Rock is the kind of place where you lock your mailbox. Real talk. The median household income sits at around $54,000, but poverty still affects over 17% of the city. And that gap? It creates a pressure cooker. You've got sleek downtown condos on one end and neighborhoods without functioning streetlights on the other. Tensions boil. Police presence is high, but response times? Not so much. Community trust? Thin. The city has tried to rebrand with murals and events like Riverfest, but residents know the truth. A Reddit user once said, "You either carry a weapon or walk fast." That's not advice, that's survival strategy. You ever have to run from a guy while holding a funnel cake? That's Little Rock. And don't let the politics fool you. Being a state capital doesn't mean safety. In fact, it usually means budget cuts, bureaucratic nonsense, and a police department constantly playing defense. Now add in the opioid epidemic, gang presence in the South End, and a crime lab that's backlogged 6 months, and what do you get? A city with charm, but also trauma. Want to move here? Sure, the cost of living is low. You can get a decent house for under $150K. Just make sure it has bars on the windows and a good insurance plan. Welcome to Little Rock, where the real rock is what you throw at your own burglar because cops are still 10 minutes out. Number 13, Rockford, Illinois. Let's be real. Chicago hogs all the headlines, but Rockford is the true crime king of Illinois. And that's not something to be proud of. Rockford's violent crime rate is a jaw-dropping 1,173 per 100,000. That puts it firmly in the top 15 nationwide. And for a city of just 150,000 people, that's not bad luck. That's broken systems. The city's once thriving manufacturing base collapsed decades ago. And what's left is economic despair dressed in Midwestern politeness. Median income, $45,000. Poverty rate, over 22%. But the crime? Relentless. Carjackings, armed robberies, stabbings, drug trafficking, and a homicide. Rate that spikes every summer like it's seasonal. And here's the kicker. Rockford looks peaceful. Tree-lined streets, modest houses, even a nice little museum or two. But locals will tell you it's got bad blocks. Except nobody tells you where the block begins until you hear the sirens. One Redditor famously wrote, "Rockford is like if Detroit and Des Moines had a kid and then forgot to feed it." Brutal, but not wrong. The police department is under-resourced and constantly chasing its own tail. Add in housing insecurity, mental health crises, and zero youth programs, and you've got a recipe for disaster. Imagine a town where Dollar Generals outnumber job centers, where kids grow up knowing more about gun models than college majors, where even the pizza places close early because they know what happens after 9 p.m. This isn't just a rough patch. This is the new normal. And if you're thinking, I'll just live in the suburbs, surprise. Crime's spilling over there too. Rockford isn't leaking violence. It's exporting it. And yet the city keeps trying. It puts up new murals, holds festivals, and builds splash pads for kids. But it's like putting a Band-Aid on a gunshot wound. Until jobs return, education improves, and law enforcement actually functions beyond press conferences, Rockford will stay dangerous. It's the kind of place where hope feels optional and survival is a skill. Visit Rockford if you want. Just don't leave your wallet in the car, or your phone, or your peace of mind. Number 12. Flint, Michigan. Flint. The name alone sparks images of bottled water, protests, and national disgrace. But here's what nobody talks about. Even after the water crisis, Flint is still one of the most dangerous cities in America. Not was, is. Let's talk about numbers. Violent crime rate, a staggering 1,931 per 100,000. That's nearly 6 times the national average. Property crime? You guessed it. Through the roof. And despite some federal help and water filtration systems being installed, trust in the system is broken beyond repair. That's when chaos creeps in. The population has cratered from nearly 200,000 in the 1960s to barely 80,000 today. And who stayed? People who had no choice. Median household income is just $31,000. Unemployment hovers near 10%. The entire local economy feels like it's stuck in neutral. Healthcare, education, and some nonprofit work are all that's left. So what happens when people have no hope, no money, and no trust in the government? Crime. Constant, creeping, aggressive crime. Gun violence, domestic disputes, drug wars, carjackings. Flint has it all. There are neighborhoods where people literally board up their homes at night like they're bracing for a hurricane. Except the storm is every day. One local put it best on Reddit. Flint doesn't sleep, it just reloads. That's bone-chilling. And the emotional toll? Massive. People here deal with PTSD like it's seasonal allergies. There's a kind of numbness, not because they don't care, but because caring hurts too much. You'd think after everything, the city would turn a corner. But even now, schools don't have heat, and ambulances take 30 minutes to show up. Crime doesn't just exist in Flint, it runs Flint. It's woven into the potholes, the busted streetlights, the abandoned factories. You want affordable housing? Sure. $12K gets you a house here, but it also gets you fear, and silence, and boarded windows. Flint is not a city that needs a second chance. It needs a miracle. And if you think it can't get worse than this, wait until we hit number 8. Number 11. Charleston, West Virginia. Charleston used to be coal country royalty, a proud Appalachian city with grit, work ethic, and a strong middle class. But now, It's struggling to survive in the shadow of addiction, poverty, and crime. The violent crime rate in Charleston is 1,572 per 100,000, 5 times the national average. And unlike other cities where crime is isolated, Charleston's danger is spread out. It's not a bad neighborhood. It's the whole grid. Property crime? Rampant. Home invasions, car thefts, vandalism. This is one of those cities where you don't leave a GPS mount on your dashboard unless you want a shattered window and a note that says, "Thanks." The opioid epidemic hit Charleston like a tidal wave. At one point, it had the highest overdose death rate in the country. The population is shrinking, hovering around 48,000, and with it, jobs are vanishing. The median household income? Just over 40K. And the poverty rate? 22%. When people have no money and no hope, crime isn't a risk. It's a guarantee. Charleston's downtown has tried to recover, with new restaurants and fancy signage. But all that gloss hides the cracks. Underfunded police, overflowing jails, understaffed hospitals, and kids growing up thinking Narcan is a normal part of the medicine cabinet. You want affordable rent? Charleston's got it. Average rent is just $800. But the trade-off is constant anxiety. Every alley feels like a gamble. And good luck getting a cop to show up on time if you do call. One Charleston native said, "We don't sleep light, we sleep dressed." That's real. The mountains may be beautiful, but inside the city, you've got chaos hiding behind every hollowed-out building. You've got people choosing between groceries and security systems. This isn't just economic decay. It's civic collapse. Charleston, West Virginia, where the past still casts a long, dangerous shadow. Number 10. Sitka, Alaska. In Sitka, Alaska, the bears aren't the most dangerous part. The people are. Sitka sells itself like a postcard. Mountains, whales, bald eagles. Like a Bob Ross painting that grew a beard and moved north. It's got that off-grid luxury vibe where your neighbor is a fisherman, a shaman, or a moose. Tourists rave about the serenity. Locals, not always. But then, surprise, Sitka has one of the highest crime rates per capita in the entire state. We're talking 81.63 crimes per 1,000 people, with property crimes making up 87% of that mess. That means your kayak, your bike, or your bear spray might go missing faster than your cell signal, and violent crime also higher than the national average. Sitka's the kind of place where you need a security system for your canoe. What makes this even more absurd is the cost of living. Median home prices near $475,000 and rent around $1,800 a month. That's more than Phoenix, but you get less sun and more bear attacks. The job market is basically a tight three-ring circus: tourism, fishing, and healthcare. So unless you're good at gutting halibut or removing claws from hikers, you're scrambling for seasonal gigs. Someone on Reddit didn't miss. Everyone's either chill or hiding from something. Between the 226 days of rain, the total isolation, there are no roads in or out, and a spike in thefts, Sitka isn't just remote, it's expensively risky. Real talk. You ever pay $6 for drip coffee while watching someone try to hotwire a snowmobile? That's Sitka. It's like nature's trying to kill you, but so is inflation. Imagine waking up to the sound of waves crashing and ravens cackling, stepping outside into crisp air so clean it slaps, only to realize your truck's been ransacked and someone took your fishing boots. And if you think Sitka is wild, just wait. The next place made weird a competitive sport. Number 9. Cairo, Illinois. Cairo, Illinois is a ghost town, where even the ghosts need security cameras. On paper, this place should be something. It's where the mighty Mississippi and Ohio rivers meet, a geographical power couple. It had steamboats, jazz clubs, a booming port economy. Think New Orleans, but Illinois and way sadder. But then you visit, and it feels like time gave up. The violent crime rate, 1,200 per 100,000, 5 times the national average. Property crime, still bad, despite the fact there's barely anything left to steal. Population, it's dropped from 15,000 to under 1,500 in just 70 years. That's not a decline, that's evacuation pace. The median home price, $29,000. And no, that's not a typo. But don't get excited. You're not buying a dream home. You're buying a broken window with plumbing problems. There's no real job market, unless you count leaving as an industry. And if you're thinking, well, at least it's peaceful, you'd be wrong. Reddit summed it up perfectly. You don't live in Cairo, you survive it. Most people are there because they're trapped. Generational poverty, no infrastructure, no exit strategy. This is the kind of place where a gallon of milk costs more than an ambulance ride, and both are rare. Picture it. You buy a Victorian house for $18K, step out onto your porch with gas station, coffee, and there's literally no sound. Not even birds. Just wind, rust, and maybe a loose shopping cart slowly rolling past a boarded-up KFC. There are more abandoned buildings than residents. You ever see a Walgreens with vines growing through the pharmacy? Welcome to Cairo. It's not just a town, it's a warning label. And if you thought Cairo was stuck in the past, wait until you see Gallup. That place turned chaos into culture. Number 8. Gallup, New Mexico. Gallup, New Mexico, where Route 66 runs through and crime runs wild. Gallup sounds like the kind of place you'd stop for gas, maybe grab a Navajo souvenir and take a scenic desert pic. It's got murals, turquoise, and just enough old-school motels to trick your brain into thinking it's charming. But Gallup is rugged, not scenic rugged. I mean, violence is a coin flip rugged. The violent crime rate is a face-slapping 1,192 per 100,000 people, nearly 5 times the national average. That's not a red flag. That's a crime-themed piñata exploding daily. Property crimes? Also out of control. 6,800 per 100,000. That means if it's not bolted down, it's already gone. Wallets, bicycles, hubcaps. Some folks lock up their trash bins. Median household income sits at $37,000, with over 30% of the population below the poverty line. That combo? Economic pressure cooker. Rent averages about $850, which sounds good until you realize you're budgeting for padlocks, floodlights, and possibly pepper spray. Gallup has a job market technically, mostly healthcare, tourism, and education, but if you're not in one of those bubbles, good luck. Reddit called it Mad Max meets small-town America. That's unironically accurate. You ever see a shopping cart with a steering wheel lock? Welcome to Gallup. This is one of the only places in America where someone stole an entire parade float. No joke. During the famous intertribal Indian ceremonial, someone made off with a whole trailer, and nobody even blinked. Gallup is wild. The sun hits different here. It's gorgeous. But then you hear the sirens, see a guy run past with a flat screen, and suddenly the rustic vibes become survival instincts. It's like if National Geographic did a crime doc. Gallup's got culture, history, and a serious theft problem. And if you thought this was chaotic, the next town makes gunshots part of the background noise. Number 7. Pine Bluff, Arkansas. In Pine Bluff, Arkansas, you're more likely to hear gunshots than church bells. And yes, that's a real stat. Pine Bluff looks like a southern postcard. Quaint houses, porches with swings, dusty BBQ joints on Main Street. You expect hospitality. Instead, you get homicides and half-lit Dollar Generals. The violent crime rate is 1,469 per 100,000, one of the highest per capita in America. Robbery, aggravated assault, gunfire, they're not rare. They're expected. And here's what makes it worse. People are leaving. The population dropped over 20% in the last decade. Not just moving, fleeing. The median income sits at $35,000, and the median home price is $84,000. Cheap, sure. But cheap is expensive when your neighborhood watch has more ammo than the local police. Rent is low too, around $720. But that savings comes at the cost of constant danger. Pine Bluff is the kind of place where your Ring camera records more drama than Netflix. One local said, "You can get a burger, a bullet, or a blessing, all on the same block." Think about that. Imagine living in a town where every headline includes shooting or fire or robbery, and your closest emergency room is over capacity. Don't even bother with public transit, unless you're training for a survival show. Pine Bluff didn't just decline, it skipped the fun part of city life entirely. No nightclubs, no concerts, no sports, just stress. You wake up, hear sirens, check your phone, and realize 2 of the 3 local break-ins happened on your street. It's like the purge, but it never ends. The roads are cracked, the schools are underfunded, and hope is thin. Want to test your luck? Pine Bluff is calling. Just don't forget your bulletproof vest. Number 6. Bessemer, Alabama. If you ever find yourself in Bessemer, Alabama, don't blink. Because something might go missing while you do. This city doesn't just have crime. It has crime with an attitude. Bessemer is one of those places where the crime rate doesn't just outpace the national average. It laps it twice and taunts it afterward. The violent crime rate is a staggering 2,539 per 100,000 residents. That's nearly 6 times the U.S. average. That's not a red flag. That's a SWAT team kicking down the welcome sign. Property crime isn't much better, with homes and businesses hit hard by theft, vandalism, and break-ins. There's a reason people in Bessemer lock up their lawn chairs. The median home price? $95,000, and you'll need the savings because you'll be spending the rest on security cameras, motion lights, and probably a German Shepherd with trust issues. Bessemer's economic base crumbled decades ago, and all that's left is retail, healthcare, and prayers. The poverty rate? 25%. And that struggle bleeds into the streets. One resident wrote online, "If you hear fireworks in Bessemer, check the calendar. If it's not July, don't go outside." That's the vibe here. It's a city where grocery runs feel like tactical missions and mail carriers carry pepper spray. Even the streetlights look like they've given up. Half flicker, the rest are out entirely. There are parts of Bessemer where 911 might not get there before the criminals finish their shift. Want to go for a walk? Cool, just leave your wallet at home and wear shoes you can run in. It's not that Bessemer doesn't have good people, it does. But the city's been left to rot by the system, and the symptoms are everywhere. If Bessemer had a tourism slogan, it would be, "Come for the BBQ, stay because someone slashed your tires." And trust me, the next stop? Even the palm trees can't hide the chaos. Number 5, Riviera Beach, Florida. If you thought Florida's danger was confined to alligators and Florida Man headlines, buckle up. Because Riviera Beach is South Florida's crime boss in disguise. This place is waterfront and war zone all rolled into one. On the surface, Riviera Beach is a tropical daydream. Yachts bobbing in the marina, palm trees swaying, dolphins doing backflips like it's a Disney movie. But that's just the brochure version. Peel back the postcard, and what you get is a city with a violent crime rate of $2,295 per $100,000. Higher than Miami, and one of the worst in the entire state. Robberies, assaults, carjackings, they don't just happen here, they happen daily. The property crime rate also punches hard, over $3,500 per $100K, meaning if you leave your beach cruiser unlocked, it's already gone. Probably halfway to Fort Lauderdale by the time you notice. And here's the kicker. Rent is still nearly $2,000 a month. Yep. You're paying beachfront prices for a neighborhood that feels like an open-world video game set to chaos mode. Median household income? Just $50,000. That's not enough when everything costs double and crime triples. This is the kind of place where you sip a $9 smoothie while watching someone hotwire a jet ski. You want a scenic jog? Just make sure your route avoids the half-dozen active crime scenes. One local said it best. Riviera Beach is paradise until the sun goes down. And they weren't joking. Police presence is high, but so is gang activity, drug trafficking, and random violence that makes no sense and gives no warning. You think beachfront means safe? Riviera Beach laughs at you. Even the dolphins look suspicious. Imagine watching a sunset with sirens in the background and helicopters hovering overhead like mosquitoes with night vision. This city proves that ocean views don't come with peace of mind. Welcome to Florida, baby, where the danger wears flip-flops. Number 4, Monroe, Louisiana. Monroe, Louisiana, a city that sounds like a lullaby but hits like a horror film. Nestled along the Ouachita River, Monroe has all the elements of southern charm: magnolia trees, winding bayous, and locals who wave whether they know you or not. But don't get fooled by the fried catfish and porch swings. This place has a violent crime rate of $2,400 per 100,000, making it higher than Chicago and one of the most dangerous cities in the entire country per capita. Property crime? Just as bad. You've got a 1 in 18 chance of getting robbed. Not pickpocketed, robbed. The kind where your front door gets kicked in and someone steals your toaster, your TV, and your sense of security? Let's break it down. Median household income? $32,000. Poverty rate? Over 35%. That's a city on economic life support. Jobs are scarce, hope is thinner, and the pressure boils over fast. Gun violence is practically a daily feature. And unlike some cities where crime hides in the shadows, Monroe's danger is daylight bold. There are neighborhoods where shots ring out between school buses, where dollar stores install panic buttons. Reddit users describe Monroe like it's the Wild West with Wi-Fi. One person said, Monroe is the only place I've had to step over crime scene tape on my way to get Popeyes. Welcome to Louisiana, folks. And don't even get me started on the infrastructure. Roads crumble, traffic lights don't work, flood zones are everywhere, and emergency services are overwhelmed. The cost of living might be low. Rent averages $850, but you'll pay for it in stress, insurance, and possibly therapy. It's like the entire city is held together by barbecue sauce and broken dreams. Sure, there's music, culture, and food that slaps, but the risk is always lurking. In Monroe, the gumbo's hot, but the block is hotter. You think you can handle that? Because if Monroe feels like a bad dream, the next city turns that dream into a dystopia. Number 3. Anchorage, Alaska. Come for the glaciers. Stay because your car got stolen and the next flight out is $900. Anchorage is Alaska's biggest city, and for a lot of people, their only mental image of the state. You picture snow-capped peaks, moose walking down the street, northern lights glowing above like a nature screensaver. And yeah, Anchorage has that, but it also has meth labs, bear break-ins, and a property crime rate that makes Detroit look quaint. Let's get surgical with the stats. Anchorage has a violent crime rate of 1,200 per 100,000. That's more than double the national average. But where it really hits hard is property crime. 4,700 plus per 100,000, putting it firmly in the top 5 worst in the nation. That means your car isn't safe, your shed isn't safe, and your garden gnome isn't safe either. One Reddit user put it perfectly. Anchorage is where your catalytic converter and your hope go missing at the same time. And that was in broad daylight. Now mix in the cost of living. Anchorage is brutal. Groceries are up to 40% higher than the national average because everything is either flown or shipped in. Rent? About wanting $600 a month and home prices pushing $380,000. That's Bay Area pricing without the Bay. Want to go for a walk in January? Cool. Just don't forget your snow boots, bear spray, and pepper spray. That last one's not for the bears. And let's not skip over the seasonal depression either. This is the only U.S. city where you can get frostbite, robbed, and overcharged for a banana all in one day. The darkness isn't just outside, it's in the statistics. And the worst part? Everyone owns a massive truck, but nobody knows how to use a turn signal. Imagine standing on your porch, sipping hot coffee under the glare. Northern Lights, only to see a guy on a snow machine ride by with your stolen Amazon packages. Anchorage, where National Geographic meets Grand Theft Auto. Number 2, Jackson, Mississippi, where you can get mugged, lose water, and hit a pothole, all on the same block. This isn't just the state capital. It's a cautionary tale in real time. You've got rich blues history, iconic soul food, and the kind of southern charm that should feel welcoming. But here's what the brochures leave out. Jackson is fighting for its life, and losing more often than it should. The violent crime rate here is 2,020 per 100,000. That's nearly 7 times the national average. For a while, Jackson had the highest homicide rate per capita in America. Yes, more than St. Louis, more than Baltimore. And it wasn't even close. Property crime also puts up big numbers. And infrastructure? Oh boy. Jackson's water system has failed multiple times in the last few years, like full failure. As in, no showers, no drinking water, and sometimes no working toilets. Imagine trying to wash dishes with bottled water while hearing sirens outside. That's daily life in Jackson. Median income? About $38,000. Poverty rate? Over 24%. Rent is affordable at around $900 a month, but that's only if you don't mind the boil water before drinking alerts popping up every other week. Reddit summed it up like this. Jackson is the only place where I've had to boil water, dodge bullets, and use cash because the card reader was down, all in one morning. That's not funny. That's just real. And can we talk roads? Driving in Jackson is like playing Mario Kart on nightmare mode. Potholes eat tires. GPS gives up halfway through your route. Emergency vehicles swerve like they're dodging landmines. The city's trying to fight back. There are murals, local heroes, community events. But when your pipes don't work and your streetlights flicker like horror movie cues, that energy fades fast. Jackson has heart. But it's also got hemorrhaging public services, a crumbling infrastructure, and a violent undercurrent that doesn't rest. And if you think this is bad, wait until we get to the final stop. This last one doesn't just flirt with collapse, It winks and pulls you in. Number 1, Gary, Indiana. Welcome to Gary, Indiana, a city that once gave us Michael Jackson and now gives us the highest violent crime rate in the country. That's not hyperbole. That's FBI data. Gary used to be a booming steel town, one of the richest cities in the Midwest. Now it feels like a post-apocalyptic movie set, minus the special effects budget. You want brutal? Let's talk numbers. Violent crime rate? Over 3,000 per 100,000. That's 8 times the national average. Property crime? Also awful. And the population has dropped from 175,000 to under 70,000. This isn't urban decline. This is mass evacuation. Median home. Price? $55,000. That's the cost of a used Tesla. But you're not buying a bargain. You're buying a warning sign with doors. The job market is bleak. You've got some healthcare, logistics, and government work. But mostly, people are getting out. Gary's biggest industry is boarding up windows. It's a city where your neighbor's house might be abandoned, but still has better curb appeal than yours. Want to own property? You can buy a house for $12K on Zillow. Not kidding. But you'll also be installing bars on the windows before painting the living room. And the schools? Underfunded. The roads? Cracked. Public services? Hanging by a thread. The cops are outnumbered and outgunned, and residents live in a constant state of, what now? You want to see community breakdown in real time? Gary's got it on loop. One local said, "It's not that you hear gunshots, it's that you don't even flinch anymore." That's the level of numbness here. It's survival, not living. You picture Indiana as cornfields, basketball courts, and small-town vibes. But Gary will break that image in one drive. Imagine stepping out your front door and seeing not 1, not 2, but 3 abandoned houses in a row, all tagged up and boarded shut. The air smells like rust and resignation. That's Gary. If you ever wondered what it looks like when the American dream bleeds out, look no further.